MotoGP previously for both Yamaha and for Ducati. And now here he is, starting a new chapter in his already illustrious career on the Repsol Honda RC213V.
There have been some that have said this is a weapon, this is a bit of an animal. The 2018 Honda, certainly not as much of an animal as the 2017 Honda was. Cal Crutchlow even has said he thinks that Jorge might find this a bit of a struggle, because you remember, you cast your minds back to Austria early in the year, in one of the press conferences, they were asked to design their own circuits, and Jorge Lorenzo cheekily drew a square for his Ducati, and then he drew a massive, what looked like a paint splat map, and said, this is what I hope for with Honda. And I think there were a few raised eyebrows at that, because not so many people think that Jorge will necessarily get what he wants with this Honda.
Yeah, I just love, I mean, since we've known that Lorenzo's debut test on this Honda was coming ever closer, Marc Marquez has had to fend off and field so many questions about his thoughts about the 99 coming to join him in HRC next season. Again on Sunday, after Marquez crashed out of that weather hit race here in Valencia, he was asked, and I thought it was a very telling kind of comment. He says, when you are in HRC, you have got no excuses. You have to be at the front. The psychological games are already starting down there between Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo. Of course, it's going to be such a fascinating dynamic between the pair of them. Bitter rivals in the past. Jorge Lorenzo has been a fierce and outspoken critic of the aggressive tactics of his teammate when he was at Yamaha. Of course, well, not that long ago, was it, in Aragon at the first corner, when Lorenzo blamed a bit of over-aggression from Marquez for launching him up into the air at that turn one. They've always had great respect for each other, but I think it's fair to say it's never been a completely harmonious relationship.
Has Jorge Lorenzo got on with any teammate that he's had?
Well, if Alberto Puig wants a wall, I know Lynn Jarvis has still got one for sale from a few years ago when Rossi and Lorenzo were teammates down at the factory Yamaha team.
One thing you can say is that I think, when was the last time you had a more powerful duo in the same team? 12 world championships between them. Marc Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo.
You have those sort of fantasy football games, don't you? You know, there's fantasy MotoGP games. If you had the budget, you'd be putting together Marc Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo. Alberto Puig has been quoted as saying, Steve, when the opportunity comes along, HRC had not, to be fair, expressed any kind of serious interest in taking Jorge Lorenzo. They were looking elsewhere, and it was actually Lorenzo that instigated the contact. He rang up Alberto Puig and said, hey, what are the chances? I'm willing to come, step into HRC. Massive pay cut, of course. HRC have got themselves a good deal. They've got a 5-time world champion, a proven, well, one of the fastest riders we've ever seen in history, for a knockdown price. Lorenzo could not go anywhere in the paddock demanding anything like the 12 million euros a year he was getting paid at Ducati. HRC are probably thinking, well, we've got a bit of a bargain here if it all works out.
Absolutely. Tito Rabat immediately comes in. He looks in quite a bit of pain here, and he's struggling, isn't he?
This is making me wince and grimace in the commentary box just looking at him. Fair play. I mean, absolute fair play. That takes some serious guts, some serious commitment from Tito Rabat just to even want to be out there. Full credit to him.
It will be steady as she goes for Jorge Lorenzo. As we mentioned before, he's carrying injury. He was not at his beautiful best on Sunday or over the weekend here in Valencia. It was a 12th place finish in treacherous conditions in the end.
Yeah, another massive boost as well, Steve. There's so many intriguing aspects of the Lorenzo Ducati deal, the Lorenzo Honda deal. Of course, he goes straight into HRC armed with recent information on exactly what the strengths and weaknesses are of the Ducati. I'm sure Takeo Yokoyama, the HRC project leader, is going to be really keen to sit down Jorge Lorenzo in a meeting room very shortly with a blank sheet of paper and go, here you go, mate, fill this in and talk us, give us all the key details of what Ducati are up to. And of course, Alberto Puig would have been looking at it like this. If we take Jorge Lorenzo, all we are doing is seriously strengthening our own position, because we'll have Marc Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo in our team, and at the same time
weakening the opposition.
Totally weaken Ducati. I'm not knocking Danilo Petrucci, but Jorge Lorenzo is a 5-time world champion, one of the fastest men we've ever seen. Whatever motorcycle this man has ridden in 125s, 250s in MotoGP, he's won on.
It's going to be something very special. It will look real. I mean, at the moment, with a plain black bike, a number 99 looks good on anything. It will be so odd, won't it, to see a 99 on Repsol Honda. machine. I'm pretty sure that Marc Marquez will have been glued to his screen in the last 10 minutes watching Jorge Lorenzo out there. Of course, he knows what Jorge Lorenzo is capable of. Since Marc Marquez came into the World Championship in 2013, he has won all of his championships bar one in every year, and that one went to Jorge Lorenzo. So the best of the best, as we now see another rookie exiting pit lane.
Well, what we do know is Jorge Lorenzo, he's not scared. He doesn't shirk a challenge, does he? I mean, to go into HRC when Marc Marquez is quite clearly the kingpin in there. 5 times a world champion the last 6 years for Marc Marquez. As Fabio Quartararo then, when he's been chomping at the bit, hasn't he? On one stage I thought they were going to have to strap him to the chair in that Petronas Yamaha garage, but finally he is unleashed on a factory Yamaha for the very first time. Special moments in this young man's career, of course, still a teenager. Is the number 20.
There's a lot of people who are looking at the 4 rookies that come up. That will be a fierce battle, by the way, that Rookie of the Year, that are saying it's bound to be Pecco Bagnaia who's going to be the Rookie of the Year. It's bound to be Joan Mir on the factory Suzuki. You cannot count out Fabio Quartararo. He burst onto the scene in Catalonia and did something mighty, mighty impressive. Yes, it was a curveball. There are still people that are hugely surprised as we see Franco Morbidelli out there on a Yamaha as well.
Yeah, it's hard to judge, isn't it, really, because it's going to be so difficult. I think obviously your favourite has to be Mir, just purely because he's on a factory team.
Yeah,
he's getting the latest, best kit that Suzuki can roll out of Hamamatsu. Bagnaia's on an exceptionally good motorcycle, but it is going to be a year-old Ducati. Fabio Quartararo will be on the B-spec Yamaha as Franco Morbidelli just runs in a little bit hot at the first corner. Good job he wasn't going to chuck that on its side, because if he did, he might have lost the front end going into that fast first corner. You're approaching that at about 320 kilometres an hour. And Miguel Oliveira, of course, you know, it's hard to judge exactly what his speed will be. He will have a full factory KTM RC16, but will KTM have advanced development of that bike to get it to a level where he can be fighting with the top rookies? But you're absolutely right, Steve. A quartet of, a batch of rookies, really, really exciting. But I just think the fact that Mir, the great thing for Mir is he's going into Suzuki looking at them having their best season, I think, since 2007, since the Chris Vermeulen, John Hopkins days, and 9 podiums this year. You know, stepping into the Suzuki 1 year ago for Joan Mir, well, it was a completely different ball game then. He knows that they're putting underneath him a motorcycle that's been fighting for the victory over the last few weeks.
First run completed then for this man. One off the rookie, 63, Pecco Bagnaia. That will take some getting used to. I actually was just looking down the time screens, looking for a number 42, based on what he's been racing this year. His time of 35.7, if you're going to compare it to Joan Mir. 6/10 off in his first run, 9 laps completed for the Alma Pramac rider. 13 riders have set times so far, and there are only 4 riders out on circuit at present. Andrea Dovizioso, Fabio Quartararo, his teammate for next year, Franco Morbidelli, and of course Jorge Lorenzo still out there on that Repsol Honda as we now join the 5-time world champion.
I think what's going to be key for Jorge Lorenzo and his early progress, Steve, and how he gets to grips with this Honda quickly, it's going to be if he can get that motorcycle to work with Michelin's soft front tyre. The soft front tyre is what Jorge Lorenzo loves. You remember in Misano, when the scorching hot temperatures, he had to race the medium front tyre. What happened? He crashed on the penultimate lap trying to hunt down Andrea Dovizioso. There's his father, Chicho Lorenzo, a man so influential in his son's career. He's not shy of expressing an opinion or two himself, actually, as Papa Lorenzo. In fact, a few times got himself in a bit of hot water. A few times his son has actually had to take into social media and go to the media as well and sort of apologise for some of his father's frank opinions.
Yeah.
But that soft front tyre, Steve, Lorenzo loves it. He likes the feel it gives him. Certainly with his riding style, you know, silky smooth on the brakes, the high corner speed, the fast entry in. The Honda, I can't recall the last time I saw anybody on a Honda race the soft front tyre. Marc Marquez and Cal Crutchlow, so often they have to race the hard front tyre because you have to jam that Honda in hard on the front end on the brakes, and the soft front tyre just can't hack it.
There he is, just leaving some of that Michelin rear down on turn 13. What will be maybe encouraging in the early signs here is that Jorge Lorenzo has completed 7 laps. He might be about to come in, but it wasn't a 1 lap out and straight back in, no, I'm not happy. Because when he first went out on the Ducati, I seem to recall there being quite a lot of moves and changes going on. He was not comfortable in the early stages. Here's a couple of Italians then on your screen. Franco Morbidelli out there, official team name to remind you for next year then for Morbidelli and Quartararo, the Petronas Yamaha SRT. You've got to believe, Matt, that having come off a 2017 Honda, which was a bit of an animal, let's be honest about it, this is going to feel like
just chucking on a nice comfy pair of slippers.
Exactly, yeah, really, really comfortable bike to ride, smooth handling.
The problem that Morbidelli and Nakagami, I heard them say a few times this year, Steve, okay, yeah, they had the 2017 spec RC213V, which Marc Marquez was able to win a world championship on, but we do know that that bike last year was slower on a straight line. HRC this year did an amazing job of extracting more horsepower out of that V4 engine. So many times this year I heard Morbidelli fast tracks like Qatar, Barcelona, Mugello, horsepower tracks like Phillip Island and the Red Bull Ring in Austria. He just said, you can't fight because this thing wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. So Lorenzo in then after his first laps out on the factory Honda. 8 laps he did in that stint, and he's about to get mobbed by an army of HRC technicians who are going to be hanging on his every word to get those